Welcome to the Soul Stories podcast series with Michelle Ann, where ordinary people share their extraordinary stories. Grab a cuppa and join me in a heart-filling journey of self-discovery, where my guests will share how they overcame adversity, embraced their spirituality, and allowed their true light to shine. Looking for inspiration, guidance, and tips to find your true passion and purpose? You are definitely in the right spot.
Hello, and welcome to the Soul Stories podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Ann, and we are up to episode number 40 today, 40. Yes, it's very exciting. And I have an amazing guest for you. It's so funny because we're both madly running around with back-to-back things on, and we said we've got exactly 45 minutes. So I've just pressed record. We've had literally no conversation, which are always the best ones because they come off the cuff and they're my favorite, actually. No preparation whatsoever, because I'm very much about being open and vulnerable, and what you see is what you get. And I get the really strong feeling that Joanne is the same. So introducing to you my guest, Joanne Omer. And I love the story as to how we met. I'm going to tell everybody that story to give you a feeling for Jo and what she is about. I said to her, I haven't even really looked her up, but I'm going to talk to you guys about what she made me feel when I met her, and that will give you a really good idea of her personality and what she does. So I'm going to call her a female embodiment coach. I don't even know if that's the right word. That's the feeling I got after I met Jo. And I know there's way more to her than this, and I'm so excited to hear her story. But the way I met Jo, this was only a couple of weeks ago, was at Tony Robbins. And it's the funniest story. I had a meltdown in the middle of the Tony Robbins conference, and I was in the hallway leading into the arena and stretching or doing yoga poses because I was in a lot of physical pain from what happened. I don't know. There's lots of stuff going on for me. It brings up a lot of stuff. And I had a little tap on my shoulder as I'm going through this, and I hear this little voice saying, can I help? Are you open to being helped? Are you in pain? And I said, well, I'm not injured, but yes, I'm physically hurting here. I'm not injured, but I'm in pain. And she said, do you mind if I touch your body? And I instantly knew, I felt intuitively that whoever this lady was, I had my head down. I didn't even look up, had my head down on the carpet. I was quite emotional because I was going through a lot of stuff. And I said, yes, that's fine. And she touched me. She said, where are you sore? She said, do the pose you were just doing. And then she moved my body and did some stuff. I'm next minute bawling on the floor. All the staff are running over. There was this big moment. I had this huge emotional outpouring. And then you said, are you open to energy work? And I was like, hell yes, I'm open to energy work. She did some energy work on me. This all happened in a matter of 10 minutes. I'm really crying by this stage. Lots of stuff got released. All the pain suddenly disappeared. And I sat up and we locked eyes because I hadn't even looked at her. And she says, hello, I'm Jo. And it was such a cool experience because I completely trusted my intuition when I met you, Jo. And I'm excited for you to tell the guys what you do and for me to hear what you do, because I can only tell you what you do from what I felt. So what I felt is Jo obviously working intuitively with me, with my body, my physical body, but also my emotional body, my spiritual body, my energetic, the whole thing. And she had this knack, and this was all in a matter of 10 minutes. And then the best bit is when she held space for me, because I just sat there and cried, and I haven't had someone being out just sit and hold space. She wasn't trying to sell me anything. She wasn't trying to force anything on me. She didn't have an agenda. She just listened. And that is powerful. So powerful to have another woman who you'd never met physically just listen to you. So that is a really brief introduction as to how I met Jo. And I'd like to delve into that with you a bit more, Jo, about your experience of that and how that played out for you. And then we'll go into like what you do for a living. So I'm really excited to hear about this thing called KunYin, because amongst all the conversation and me crying and saying I need to stop, and relax a little bit more, I said I loved my yin yoga. I just can't get to there because of my kids. And she looked at me. She said, you're not going to believe what I do. And she has a modality called KunYin, where she works with Kundalini energy, the feminine energy, and yin being the feminine. And I can't wait to hear all about it. So it was perfect timing. It was meant to be. We both believe we met for a reason. And that's why I was really excited to get you on today. So welcome to the podcast, Jo. That was a really blah introduction. So yeah, would you first of all, let's have a little chat about your side of things and your experience when we met, and then we'll go from there as to, tell everybody what you do with yourself. I can't wait.
Oh my God. Thank you so much for having me. And I'm just really moved by your share because it was pretty much my experience as well. It was exactly what happened. But from my experience, I saw you I'd walked back and forward a few times, and you were there for quite a while, like about, 20 or 30 minutes in that same pose. And something inside of me said, you can help her. And then I just said, no, Joe, this is not the right time, And I kept winning and doing my thing. And then I came back again, and then I came back again, like a third time, and you were still there. And I was like, okay, this is a sign from the universe that this woman needs my help. And I know how to help you. Mm-hmm. And I could tell by the pose that you were doing, you were actually doing a child's pose. Mm-hmm. And I could tell by that pose that you had a lot of tension in your lower back. Mm-hmm. And in the lower back, there's a lot of emotion that we hold there, especially as women who serve and help and support so many others. And so I knew what was going on for you. And I'm also I'm an intuitive as well. So, and an energetic healer, as well as psychosomatic expert therapist.
Yes.
And so I knew what could make that difference. And so I just gently came up to you and I said, do you mind? Hi, are you in pain? Do you mind if I touch your body? And then I got you to just move a little and breathe into that space where the tension was, and to move your body in such a way that allowed your body to naturally, and you felt safe enough with me, which is such an honor and a privilege that I don't take lightly, because for so many, and I feel emotional
I'm just crying too, just sitting here with tears coming
for so many powerful women that hold the space for so many, there is not many places where we can go and feel held. So I truly acknowledge you for allowing me to do that for you, and for being vulnerable in that as well. And so when you started to move your body, see, our bodies are so beautiful and so intuitive. She knows exactly what to do when you don't think about it, and you just let your body do what she needs to do. And so whatever it was that you were holding in your body as you moved and breathed was released. And that came out in the expression of tears. Mm-hmm. And then you had your release, and then you felt a lot better. And then I was able to hold that space for you because, being a woman like myself, I hold the space for hundreds of women every week, every month. And I know that that's what we need. And it's not very common where you can go where someone's not trying to diminish your experience,
yes,
or fix you, or offer you advice, or get you to change your state. Mm-hmm. Because at that point, you were not in the place to do that, because what was there needed to be addressed. Mm-hmm. And so you gave yourself permission as well to let that go.
It was a really powerful moment, and it was just powerful on both our behalves, which I love that, because both of us basically are being in our power. So my ability to be vulnerable, and I'm quite proud of the fact that, one, I had the confidence just to do that sort of stuff in the middle of the hallway, because I thought, no, my body is sore and it needs to move, and I know how I needed to stretch. Two, that I was open enough, and I fully trust the universe. My sister is trying to get into the Zoom waiting room. I don't know why. That's funny. Maybe she needs to join on this conversation. I'm going to admit her, and we're going to have she can come in and say hello too. Two, that I had the confidence and the intuition and to know that the universe has got my back. Hello, Diane McKendrick. We're in the middle of a podcast, but I've invited you in because we're talking about intuition and being part of the universe. If you're here, jump on. If not, you can leave. And that the right person was going to come along at the right time. So that when I heard a voice say, can I, are you in pain? My intuition just dropped straight in and was like, yeah, I know this person's here. We were in a room full of 7,000 people. I was in the diamond section, which is like right up the front, which was really, really beautiful, because I knew that the quality of people that I was, not that money makes people quality people, but the vibration of people that I'd been meeting is just like next level. So I knew that the people in that space were very high vibration, and also that most of us owned businesses. So at first I actually thought maybe you're a massage therapist or you're I don't know. I just knew. And so yeah, the qualities of myself to allow that to happen and be in the position to let you do that. And then the confidence and the power that you held as a woman to actually come in and trust your intuition that, yes, you could help me. 2, you're meant to come across my path. And I know you said you went past 2 or 3 times and eventually you listened to your own whispers, we call them whispers, your intuition to be brought into that space to be able to help me as a woman. And then not only help me, but also to get this word out to the rest of the people that are listening, the followers, or even if one person or one woman hears this and understands that they're ready to listen to their bodies. Like that's the ripple effect. So yeah, this was a beautiful moment. And then the ability of 2 women that I'd never met to just literally connect and bond on such a deep level so quickly. Like, as I said, I hadn't even seen Jo's face. I had my head down in the carpet, bawling before I actually knew what she looked like, because I didn't need to physically see her. I felt her energy. I knew and I trusted her completely. And then when I sat up and then I just saw in her eyes, and that was the end of me. I was a bawling mess. And then you just held space. And the funniest thing was we're still on the ground at this stage. And the funniest thing was that I stood up to give you a hug and I'm like, oh my God, you're tiny, because I'm quite tall and Jo's like tiny. And it was the funniest moment because like there was nothing, it didn't matter about what you physically were like, or it could have looked like anything. I wouldn't have cared. And I love the fact that you were so little. And I was like, oh, I just wanted to pick like you're like a little angel that come through. So I think that was really powerful, of the meeting of 2 very strong and powerful souls in that hallway amongst the 7,000 people. And I laughed to myself because I just think you pay all this money to go to Tony Robbins and you think it's Tony Robbins, the man who's going to give you the big breakthrough. And yes, I had some huge breakthroughs. And yes, I got some really beautiful experiences at Tony and with Tony himself. He coached a woman like literally in front of me, which was really powerful because he was actually talking about a topic. I'm not sure if you remember, there was really only one intervention through the whole thing. And it was about a woman that was struggling to get into a relationship. And Tony's come off the stage, which he does all the time, and he steps like half a meter from me, and I felt his energy. And one part of me was wanted to step back because his energy was so powerful, but I actually held my ground. And he just looked at me in the dead in the eye, and he said, "I'm down here, and this is getting drawn out more than I had hoped or that I had planned for, because there's more people here that needs to hear this message." And it just hit me in the heart, and I'm bawling, and it was really powerful, even though he wasn't talking directly to me. So yeah, but you think it's Tony Robbins that's going to do the big breakthrough, but what it is, it's you're doing your healing. I think that's probably a message that could come out of our session today, is that it's actually you doing the healing. And I put myself in that position to meet you, and it was that Tony helps break you down enough to get yourself in that position, I must admit. Like he breaks you down so that you're in the vulnerable position in the floor. But yeah, that was really, really powerful. And I just wanted to touch on what happened after that, because after that I went back in, and yes, the physical pain had gone. Like it was crazy. I was in a lot of pain. It was causing me tears physically, and it lifted instantly within the 10 minutes that you spent with me. But I couldn't focus. It was all very masculine content. I can't remember what it was. And I'm just like, I don't need to be here anymore. And I went outside, which is huge for me because I paid a lot of money to be there. And I said, my body needs sun. It needs to be outside, and it needs rest. I'm exhausted. I'm tired. My body's physically tired. And I went outside and I laid, it's all cement. It's a massive arena. It's all just cement. I didn't care. And I laid out on the cement, and I slept on the cement with the Tony Robbins book under my head. Because I took it to maybe do some notes or something, and ended up under my head as a pillow, and slept, and I let my body rejuvenate. I let my soul rejuvenate, and I let my energy and I sat out there for about an hour and a half, I think, which is really, really big for me. So anyway, that's the experience. So it was really, really cool to have met you in that crazy, random, I knew is weird, not weird, because it's always meant to be, that coincidence that wasn't a coincidence, the synchronicity of meeting you. So that's how we synchronistically and was meant to meet. And now we're here talking about what you do. So tell us your story. How did you end up my God, I'm sure it's like I can't wait to hear it. How did you end up
I'd love
doing
to
this
tell you
work?
my story. But before that, I really just want to point out a few things, beautiful things in what you said. Is, I feel like some of the biggest challenges that we have as women is being strong and vulnerable. And you displayed that in the allowance of allowing yourself to be contributed to. And so that is something that many women get challenged with. And secondly, the other thing that I heard is trust is so important, and trusting that your body knew what to do, because our bodies do know what to do, but our minds become so they're geared for survival. They're not geared for your pleasure. They're not geared for anything else except for to keep you alive. And so when we slow down and actually listen to the wisdom of our body, she knows exactly what to do, but very often we don't give ourselves the spaciousness to do that. So by doing that, it opened up something where you were able to release and let go, and then you then listen to your intuition. And so when your body is actually clear, which it was because you released whatever it is that you were holding that was blocking your energy centers, it enabled you to create this clear channel that you were able to receive the intuition to say, this is what my body needs. And then you were courageous enough to go and honor that, not let your mind overtake you, but listen to the whisper of your body and go and lay in the sun. And then that was all you probably needed to get you to really enjoy the rest of the seminar. And really to be sometimes it's as long as it takes, but we create all these stories in our heads about, how we're so overwhelmed and we're tired and we're frustrated and we've got this and that, and we can't possibly stop, because if I stop, nothing's going to get done. But really it's all about our being. And so to answer, I just wanted to add that to what you shared. And to get onto how did I get on this journey? Well, I was you in that moment, and I've been you. I worked in the corporate world for 15 years. I was a project manager in IT. I worked in a very male-dominated environment. I met my husband when I was 19. I was married at 25. I've been with him for 29 years.
Oh, wow.
Next year. And to be honest, the first half of most of my relationship, I was in a very masculine energy. I had to control everything. And I was I'd be in the boardroom of, big corporations, and I'd be telling people what to do, telling all the men what to do. And I'd love it. And then I'd come home and I'd be chop, chop, tell my husband what to do. Yeah. And then I would wonder, why is there no intimacy in my relationship? Why don't I have that connection? Why do I feel resistant to having sex? Why do I have sex? And then I am totally resentful and pissed off about it because I'm so freaking exhausted. I'm just doing it out of obligation. And I actually went to a Tony Robbins Date with Destiny. And I realized then I was in my masculine. Yes. And I'd never heard of this concept before. Now, that was, 7, 8, 9 years ago now. And now it's much more widely spoken about. But still, even though you know it, if you're not being it, you don't know it. Right. So I knew this, and I learned about what is this feminine energy. And it was really confronting, because I realized how much I played a part in that, in why there was no intimacy in our relationship. Yes. And because I had no connection with myself.
Yes. And no polarity.
And definitely. And so my husband was a pleaser, and I didn't respect a pleaser, and he would do what I said. Right. Now, here's the thing. A man, if a woman can control a man, she will never respect him. And what she wants a man to admire and respect, and know that he can take care of her. But when I didn't trust myself, and then I was trying to tell him what to do, and he listened to me, well, there's no trust over here with me, and there's no trust over there with him. So that is how is a woman going to ever open herself emotionally, spiritually, physically, sexually, if she doesn't trust? Wow. So after that, I really there was a couple of years, and then I went back to Date with Destiny, and I wrote down on the thing, I write down my goals, because you write down your goals. And I was like, I want to join Platinum Partnership, because they had the love and relationship program. And literally I did not believe it was possible, because it's a lot of money. It's a big investment, and I was working full time, and I had no idea how it was going to happen. But synchronicities put people in my path, conversations I had. And then I spoke to my husband, and he's like, are you crazy? And I'm like, no, I'm not. I really want to do this. And somebody actually said he spoke to another platinum partner, and this platinum partner said to him, he said, your wife wants to do it. And he said, yeah. And then he said, so how long have you been taking the back seat in your relationship? And my husband looked over at me. I was standing in front of the desk to sign up, and he goes, sign us up.
Oh, yes.
And I was like, what?
So he was at Date with Destiny with you, was he?
Yeah, he was there.
Oh, that's powerful.
Yeah. And he goes, sign us up. And I was like, because what one does, we both do. It's like, he doesn't want to miss out. So
No.
he wasn't going to miss out. And little did I know that, most couples actually don't do it that way. Most couples, one signs up and the other becomes a guest. But because we didn't even have that limiting belief, we were just like, we're both doing it. So I'm like, where are we going to get the money from? And he's like, we just paid off our house, which was one of our goals. He goes, redraw the money from our redraw, and you pay for the deposit, and I'll pay for mine. And every other in payment that comes out is going to come out of your credit card. You're going to make the money, and you're going to pay for yours. And I was like, done. And I was still working full time at that time. I had no idea. How the hell am I going to commit to 12 months of personal development when I work full time?
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I managed to speak to my bosses. I spoke to people. I created miracles. I started my coaching business. I also sell essential oils. I smashed it. I did all of it. And I paid for my platinum year before I even started.
Oh,
right. And I didn't start until the following. He started earlier, and I started 6 months later. And I paid for it myself, and I'm so blessed that was such a gift he gave me. But to come back to how I got to do the work that I do, is that at that program, I learned about what it is to live in my body.
Mm-hmm.
I sat and I learned about central movement. I started to move my body in a way that was so slow that it created the spaciousness for my body to let go. And I felt safe.
Mm-hmm.
And I was literally in a cross-legged position, and I cried, and I cried, and I cried, and I cried, and I cried. I've cried like I've never cried before, because what I didn't know is, until that point, was that sadness was an emotion that I had suppressed.
Wow.
My mother was depressed. She had seen, psychotherapists since I was a very young girl, and my mum was often sad. So as a little girl, I decided that I had to be the happy one.
Wow.
I had to be the one who was always happy. And how that showed up is I'd show up for work, and I'd be the happiest person. I'd be like, oh, and people would be like, oh my God, you're always so happy. Mm-hmm. And I was, but it was part of my identity, but it wasn't the truth of who I was.
Yeah.
It was a construct that I'd created to survive. Right. And so then, and as a result of that, how that would ripple out is that facade, you can only sustain it for so long. I'd come home and be an angry psycho bitch. Mm-hmm. Right. And then he wonders, like, why are you so happy with everyone else? And then you come home to me and you're a psycho and you're angry. Right. Because it wasn't being my authentic self. So what I realized is, so then I went on a journey of really looking at, well, how could I move my body? Like, what happened? I didn't understand what happened. Then I went on and I learned about what I realized is that the more I started to move my body, went out of that program and started to move my body in that very slow, sensual way. And what I realized is that as I was moving and getting out of my head, my intuition would open up.
Mm-hmm.
And I would receive such incredible inspirations and downloads and things that would come to me. And I was like, wow. So then I went on and I learned about healing, and I became a theta healing practitioner and instructor. And that's a whole other story in itself. But I never meant to be an instructor. I just showed up at a course and I didn't even realize it was an instructor. We flew all the way from Australia to Montana to learn. And we got there and we realized we were in an instructor's course. And it's like, I've never done it before. So it's like going to be a yoga instructor and you've never done yoga in your life. You don't even know. And they're like, we don't know how you got here, but we only asked Creator to send us ascended masters, people who are ready to learn this work. So you must be meant to be here. So I went on and I learned theta healing, and then I teach theta healing. And I learned all about the body. I learned how to become a medical intuitive. So to literally see inside the body intuitively and know what's going on and be able to understand what belief systems are held in certain parts of the body. And then that wasn't enough for me, though. I wanted to go deeper. So then I learned psychosomatic therapy. And that is the mind-body connection. So literally being able to understand through people's physiology, how you walk, what your face is like, your gestures, your body language. I can read bodies. So by looking at, if somebody like holds their lip, or I realize, okay, there's something she wants to say, but she's holding herself back. You've done that a few times on this call. I've seen you. It's like you probably wanted to go, I want to say something. Right?
Yeah,
so
it's true.
I can read people's bodies. I can read your body language. And so I can understand by how somebody walks. I can see if people have had a traumatic childhood just by looking at their face. I can look at how they walk. It definitely is one part of it. And so with all of these tools and with all of these things, I thought, oh my God, like, wow, what would it be like if I combined all of this together? What would it be like if we could actually have something that takes care of women, mind, body, and spirit?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what would that be like? And so that's when KunYin was created. And so KunYin is really, a combination of sensual movement, energy healing, and psychosomatics. And so what I find is so powerful is that by, participating in like just a 60-minute class, you are able to go on a journey to move those emotions that we've suppressed in our life, move those through your body, whether it be sadness, fear, frustration, anger, sexuality, naughtiness, shame, all of these feelings and emotions that we have. When you're able to move those through your body, then go out into the world like you're a different woman. And what I've discovered through now, I've been so then I created that, and then I created an instructor training program, and so now I have like 22 licensed instructors throughout the world, from the UK to Canada, the United States, Kuwait, Iran, Australia. Hopefully I haven't forgotten anyone. Please forgive me if I have. But yeah, because I realized that, this is not just about me. This is my vision for this work, is that just like a woman says, I'm going to go take yoga, that one day at some point in the future, maybe I probably won't even be here, but they go and say, I'm going to take a KunYin class, because I feel like part of my divine purpose in this life is to awaken consciousness on the planet. And the way that we do that, at the first level of doing that, and there's multiple layers, is the first level is awakening the divine feminine. Because she has been suppressed, not just by the patriarchy, but she's suppressed herself. And our conditioning has suppressed ourselves. And so when we awaken to our truth, when we awaken to the divine souls and beings that we are, we then change our partners. Men will never have to do one moment's work if you change in a relationship. I'll tell you that straight away, because my husband didn't go on this journey with me. I went on this journey. I mean, he was there. He's my divine timing soulmate. We are partners to to deliver this message to the world. But I led it. And I truly believe that women are the leaders. We are the leaders of changing this world. And the divine masculine will come into his divine feminine when we do.
Yeah, agreed.
And together you will raise consciousness. Together we'll raise conscious children and change the world. So that's my story.
I'm blown away. It's not about, I've got no questions because I'm so present with what you just said to me. You're talking to me as starters. I mean, that's a reason why our paths crossed. But everything you just said, I've known for not this lifetime, many lifetimes. And you just put it into words that explains it so well. And the fact that you created your own modality and it's what women need and then branched it out like that just blows my mind. And it gives me so much inspiration that when you find what you're meant to be doing, your passion, and you start listening to your own whispers and your own intuition, it will guide you to the right place. I've been told several times that I should be doing psychosomatic work. I had a healer in Bali tell me this exact thing. And I keep getting drawn. I've always been absolutely, and it's probably a question for you, every time in yoga, when I do my hip stretches and my hip poses, I am a bawling mess on the floor in the yoga room. This has been going on for years. I'm now starting to understand a little bit about it, but I've always been really obsessed about that and helping women move trauma. And I have been helping women move trauma in my own way. At our retreats, we do some really, really deep healing. And for some reason, I have this capacity to be able to hold women in this snotty, blubbering, convulsing mess on the floor. I don't know why, but I do believe it's past life stuff because that's what my soul is here for and that's what your soul is there for. So I'm already started to do it, but I've just been a little lost in where to take that. So there's absolutely no coincidence and you will be guided. That's, yeah.
Totally.
So tell us about this hip thing as well. I want to hear about that.
A couple of things about what you said. So psychosomatically, it depends where you were holding the emotion, but my feeling is that it was in your inner thighs, and when they open up and stretch is when you have a release. And so the inner thighs are actually part of the sacral chakra, which relates to your sexual energy, which relates to your beliefs around relationships, your identity as a woman, how you need to show up in the world. And so what you've been holding in there is something to do with that energy center, and which is, and your ability to be able to hold the space for women in the way that you do is because you've learned, I'm going to make an assumption here, that you've learned how to hold yourself through that snotty mess.
Yeah.
Right. True. And when you have enough trust, take something to have enough trust in yourself, in your own body, to let yourself be held in your own snotty mess, then that's when you know who the fuck you are. I'm sorry, you can cancel that if we're not allowed to
swear. You can swear. No, I always swear. It's all good.
That's how you know who the heck you are, right?
Wow.
That's how you know who you are, is because you've lived it and breathed it, and that's why you can bring what you bring to the women that you serve and the men that you serve, because I know your retreats are sometimes men and women.
Yeah.
So yeah, the definitely, and that was also an area that I was holding my emotion as well, was in the inner thigh. It was in the inner thigh and in the hip, which is both sacral. So some people think that can be your base chakra, but in fact, the outside of your legs are your base chakra, and that's all about safety and security. But the inside is more about your sexual energy, anything that relates to your identity as a woman, relationships, but it's also connected to abundance. So when you release physically, see, the body is the history book of everything that you've ever experienced in your life. So our bodies are walking history books. So even if you consciously have moved forward from an experience where you may have, when that trauma or that experience may have been held there, you may have consciously moved on, but your body still remembers it. Now, so that can be one aspect, but you also mentioned past lives. We can also hold belief systems, like ancient belief systems from in the subconscious mind, can come through not only from this lifetime, from when you were in the womb. So you experienced everything that your mum experienced when she was pregnant with you. So it's often, sometimes if you've got ways of being and you don't understand, why am I like this? Sometimes it might be good to go back to your mum and say, Mum, what was your pregnancy like with me? What did you experience when you were pregnant? How was life like for you? What was my birth like? Right? So it's at that level. So at the core level, it's at the genetic level. Like, you are your mother. Whether we want to believe it or not, we are our mothers. And oh my God, someone said it to me the other day and I go, please God, no, I'm trying. I mean, I love my mum. I have a very good relationship with my mum. Thank God. She's an amazing woman. I never would be the woman that I am today without her. However, there are some beliefs that I've picked up on that I've carried through my DNA, through my genetics. And then we've got past lives and group consciousness. And then we've got beliefs that we hold at the level of our soul. And so, we need to work through all those layers at all those levels so that we can be free, as well as our bodies.
Way more complicated than I first thought. It is, but it isn't. It is when you consciously try to think of all that stuff you just said. If you just took that at a conscious level, you'd be overwhelmed.
True.
But it's actually quite a simple concept if you take it at a soul level. If you just don't get your head involved, just let your soul feel that, and it just, of course, it makes sense. It's all intertwined. And one thing leads to another, and you just have to, ultimately, as we talked about at the start, is trust. Trust is the biggest thing. So
and I don't want to overcomplicate it. So that is like, how can I say it? For those people that are listening that like to know details,
yes,
that's definitely, like, to understand how we become the women that we become and how you've become the person that you are. We really do need to look at it, a mind, body, and spirit. But most of the times we just look at the mind. And then we're only looking at what we consciously know. So we need to also look at the subconscious. We need to we also need to move our bodies in such a way that supports us to release those things. So at the most simplest level, we need to take care of ourselves, mind, body, and spirit. And each of those has different layers.
Yes. And when you trust enough, then you get guided and provided with what you need to do it at the time. So it's about getting out of your head. And
absolutely.
And not like, I love all the stuff you said, because I actually have a science degree. So I'm very much wanting to know the ins and outs of everything. So I love that there's a basis to what you're saying. It's not just all fluffy. It's like science, it's physiology, there's obviously all your spirituality, but muscles and tendons, and it's mind-blowing,
Yes,
so there's basis to it. But
absolutely.
ultimately, I think we have to ultimately open ourselves up, which is the feminine, to have this drop in.
Yes. And as you said, trust. It's like, all we ever need to do is just ask myself, what is my next right move? What is my next step? Like, don't think too far into the future, right? But just sometimes if we think too far into the future with all of that information, it can be overwhelming. So I just need to say to myself, what is the next right step? And then once you do that, or trusting that the creator, the universe, will send you the right people to help you to take that next right step. I didn't plan on doing this. But my soul came here with a purpose. And I just kept asking myself, what's my next right step? Join Platinum Partnership. What's my next right step? Learn about that. What's my next right step? Learn about that. What's my next right step? Learn about. What's my next right step? Combine it all. And then it's what you're trusting and following your soul's path. Mm-hmm. Because our minds do not know our soul's path yet. Mm-hmm. It's a revelation over time. And then when we're in our divine timing is when it all starts to come together. And our divine timing is something that your soul set up way before you came here and said, we're coming to Earth I'm coming to Earth and you guys are coming with me, my soul family, and we are going to do this. And then when you come to Earth, you forget all about it. But then the people show up that help guide the way.
Yes.
The teachers come in, the people come in to teach you, your mentors, your coaches, all of those things, they show up, and they show up for a reason. And then it's like, am I going to trust?
I love this. It's so good. And I know you've got to go at 12:45. I think we're going to have part 2 because I've got so many things I need to ask you. If you're open to doing part 2, because I feel like we're going to cut this too short and it doesn't feel complete to me. So we'll probably wrap it up in a minute or two, and then I think we'll continue the conversation because there's a few other things I wanted to delve into with you. The biggest thing, it's funny that you're talking about trust, because I signed up for the yearly, mostly Date with Destiny, and my intuition said, you've got to go to Florida. And it's been a couple of weeks and I'm having the full doubts, and I can't actually afford that right now. What the bloody hell am I thinking, and all that stuff. So now you're bringing up Date with Destiny and all this stuff. I'm like, okay, today was sort of D-Day for me. I had to make the decision whether I'm going forward with this or not. So I think it's really beautiful that you've brought all that up for me, and I think it's confirmed some themes, so that's handy. But I want to delve in more into the KunYin and how that works, how the modality works, all that sort of side of stuff. So if you're open to doing that, we'll book another session. And I think everybody that's listening will want to know the rest of the story, because I don't think we're going to do you justice by just cutting it off now. But we know you've got stuff on. So let's just wrap up part 1 now. To be continued. And I'll get all my questions because I've got 50 million of them ready for next time. And we'll book in a time and complete our chat. Does that sound good to you?
Sounds amazing.
I'm excited. I'm very excited. So I'll let you go, and I will see you in episode 41. There'll be 2 for you.
Amazing.
Yes. Awesome. Okay.
See you then.
If you have enjoyed this podcast and want to know more, I personally invite you to dip your toes into our business. My sister and I have created an amazing bundle that allows you to taste test what we both have to offer. Get in close proximity, feel the magic for yourself, and see what our extended family tribe love about those 2 sisters. To get all the taste tester deets, head over to www.those2sisters.com/taste tester. See you there.